What's going on, guys? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking us on out as your Miami Dolphins, they lose in crushing fashion yet again to the Minnesota Vikings 24-16. Their 3-0 start has been squandered as they now drop to 500. And it is a rough day here in Dolphins land. To go from the start that they were at to what the last 3 weeks have been, which has basically felt like the same movie every single week, where you lose your starting quarterback, you're kind of in it with the quarterback you had no intention of being in there with, and then it just falls apart with some turnover in the fourth quarter, and it ends really, really ugly. And today, Jaylen Waddle is the one who wears the goat horns. He was, he blew it. I mean, that's just flat out how it is. He had a tough one earlier in the game where he had an incompletion that led to an interception, but the Dolphins were marching down. They were on path to go take the lead in this game, and Teddy Bridgewater finds him for completion, and he fumbles that football, and you're just, all air is just sucked out of that game. All air is just sucked out of that game from your number two, but everybody looks at him as one of the stars of this team. And for him to have that play at that moment was just an absolute crusher, because the Dolphins were absolutely marching down the field, 14-yard pass, get a first down. You are absolutely cruising. Teddy's getting in a really, really great rhythm. After what had just been, just a putrid game for the most part to watch offensively back and forth. I mean, we're talking about these two teams had like 2 first downs between them for the most part. And yeah, for Jaylen to have that fumble is just an absolute crusher, and you feel for him because he's a fan favorite. Everybody loves doing the waddle. It's all fun, but this is tough, man. It's tough to continue to get kicked in the junk like that. And, you go through the Dolphins games. I'm not one of these guys who wants to look back and say, oh, well, you're 3-3. We all thought the schedule was going to be hard. This is probably where you would be anyway. Fine. That's fine. But it's also lost opportunity. I mean, you're looking right now at yourself in the standings, and you're tied in the basement with the New England Patriots, who you obviously have the tiebreaker against. And you do have it with the Bills, and we'll see what comes of this. I'm recording it as Bills Chiefs is going on, but the Jets had their own adversity to get through, and now they find themselves at 4-2. They beat you last week, and so while you can sit here, you can talk about no Tua. No Tua is definitely a huge key. I'm not here to disagree with you guys. Having a week of preparation and having your quarterback actually get to play the game, huge. That would be nice. It would be nice if the Dolphins over the next 3 weeks, if the Dolphins could go into every single game and have the quarterback they had planned on playing and starting finish the game and not be knocked out by injury. That would be nice, because Thursday Night Football, planned on playing Tua, knocked out. Next week, planned on playing Teddy, one play, knocked out. This week, planned on playing Skyler, who looked okay in his little bit of run. I mean, the penalties were atrocious that he had to deal with, but he was gone. And, but on the other side of that, I thought that Teddy played an okay game. I thought that he really started getting things going late. It took him a while to get into a rhythm. He got his absolute ass kicked in this game. That offensive line was putrid today. You can only take so many hits. I mean, that's the other thing is, you keep going through this, and you keep taking the injuries all over the place. Today it was Nick Needham who goes down, and although Noah Benogany had a terrible pass interference, he did have a couple nice pass breakups. So golf clap to old number 9 there. It's just, I think there's a couple things that have been a theme that need to get cleaned up, regardless of quarterback. But part of them is intertwined, so I can't just completely ignore it. One has to be the idea, like this team has to get off to a faster start somehow. They continue. They have not scored a touchdown in any opening drive this year. They're always playing from behind, whether it be by a score or 2 scores. It's never like they're quite blown out. So they're always in it. They're always fighting, and that's an admirable defense. I thought showed up in a big, big way today. They really made Kirk Cousins, look pedestrian for a pretty high-powered offense that has weapons all over the place with Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook, and up until that Dalvin Cook 53-yard touchdown at the end, which stuck the dagger in your heart, they had done a really good job on the run game. There really was no run game to speak of. Ton of three. I think they had 11 3-and-outs today, I think was the final number. But the offense continued to shoot itself in the foot. The penalties, it felt like everybody on the offensive line were having penalties. That's atrocious. I mean, don't get me started on Jason Sanders and his missed kicks. I mean, this dude is, look, I'm no veterinarian, but I can see A1 fat cat syndrome when I notice it. And it's like, that dude, ever since he got the kicking bag, you can't trust him. You can't trust him. And it's like, it's a 52-yarder. Dude, all right, this isn't 2008. 52-yarder, you pay an elite kicker, he's supposed to make a 52-yarder, especially at home. So I don't want to hear it. But to have all of this adversity, I think the thing that's frustrating about it, to have all this adversity that they've faced, and each one of these games to be in it at the end of it, and it to have just a crushing turnover, Thursday Night Football, crushing interception from Teddy Bridgewater. Bengals come back, score a touchdown. Last week, Skylar Thompson, sack fumble, leads to a back-breaking touchdown. This week, Jaylen Waddle fumble, leads to a back-breaking touchdown. You cannot overcome mistakes like that and expect to win football games. You can't. This is the thing that's tough. And yeah, when you get Tua back, and it looks like they're going to get him back next week, and we can get into that probably for another time. But as far as the guys who are on the field, the amount of critical errors of the guys who have been out there have been really worrisome. To see that this was a team that was able to, harness their early mistakes and come through in the early goings of this season, and now have found themselves at 3-3 with just, 3 straight back-breaking performances, 3 straight awful feelings. And, I do think that Mike McDaniel, as far as he's concerned, like, if he looks around and you look at what the offense puts up, 16 points, like, we haven't, since the Ravens game, there hasn't been like that monster output. Like, they've been, there's been yards, there have been guys where you look at the numbers today, and you're like, Teddy Bridgewater threw for 329, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions. You look at your 2-star receivers, and Teddy Bridgewater, again with a monster game, Tyreek Hill, with another monster game, 177 yards receiving. Jaylen Waddle, 129 yards receiving. Mike Gesicki, 69 yards receiving. And you're like, wow, they're really humming. And for that to end up with just 16 points when you get games like that, like, you're not executing at the right times, and you're not coming through at the right times for your team. And, part of that was also you were kind of, you got a couple of stat fluffers there at the end also. But just really, really demoralizing to be in this spot, because I really feel like today, I really felt like the Dolphins could have taken this one. You excuse Thursday Night Football because, you watch your captain get stretchered off the field. You're on the road. It's on 3 days' notice. You're off to a 3-0 start. Okay, you'll eat it. You're like, all right, it's one game. Probably not a game you were supposed to win anyway, especially the situation you were put in. But it's still crushing on the least. And you don't ever want these things to start snowballing. And then you have what happened last week with the Jets, where you're hanging with them. Your defense is getting beat up a little bit, but you're right there to take the lead at the start of the fourth quarter, and then all hell breaks loose. You're like, all right, couple road losses, some unfortunate turns. Okay, fine. Today is the one I feel like hurts the most. Because while you weren't planning on having Teddy Bridgewater out there, and Teddy Bridgewater didn't have a week of practice, and yeah, that sucks. Like, and you want to get on Mike McDaniel a little bit, because you're like, hey, all right, is the honeymoon over for the new head coach? Is he getting too cute with stuff? I get people who want to get mad because you just want to get mad at somebody, but like, what is ahead? Like, literally everything he preps for in the week gets derailed in 3 drives. Because Skylar Thompson's not out there. That being said, this is the whole reason you brought in Teddy Bridgewater. And I thought Teddy Bridgewater, if you look at a guy who had the game that he had, which was not flashy, and this was certainly a slop fest for the most part, with with some excitement kind of built in at the end. Most of this game was truly awful. I mean, it was 3-and-outs galore. There wasn't like a first down, I think, till midway through the third quarter for that second half. It was a rough watch. Teddy dealt with, getting absolutely drummed the entire game because the offensive line was piss poor. The run game, after showing signs of life last week, Raheem Mostert, 14 carries, 49 yards, not much there. Chase Edmonds is an afterthought in the run game now. They don't even go to him. And I think that, if we're going to grade Mike McDaniel on this 3-3 start, the lack of run game being able to get going is probably the most discouraging thing, because everybody thought, oh, this guy, this is what he does. This is what he does. He comes in, he fixes your run game, and it just, for the most part this season, has been an afterthought. This has been an offense that has two Ferraris that you throw out there, and they can go do things, and they're always going to get you the big plays, mostly Tyreek Hill. And unfortunately today, when your best player, one of your best players in Jaylen Waddle, blows the game for you, you kind of look around the room and you're like, well, if he's not going to come through, who is going to come through for us? When your best players go out there and they cost you like that, it just hurts a little bit more, because you could always talk yourself into, we didn't have our quarterback. Oh, we don't have our cornerbacks. Oh, we don't have our tackles. But Jaylen Waddle, this is one of your go-to guys. And for the game to be coughed up on it like that from him is just extra crushing. And then on top of it, it's followed up with just a death blow from Dalvin Cook, who absolutely owns that stadium. And for him to put the finish touch, I'm sure it had to be real sweet for the hometown kid, but extra salty for everybody down here in South Florida to see one of their own just twist the dagger in and get them to 3-3. And now you're in the spot. Look, you're going to prime time next week. Tua, you think, is going to come back, but for him to come back and now is going to be looked upon in a tough situation where he's going to be looked upon as the savior, which, look, franchise quarterbacks have to deal with that, but he's also coming off a really horrendous injury and situation. And so everyone's going to be looking for him to be the guy to get you right. And I think the thing that's unfortunate is you built yourself all this good grace with those 3 wins to start the season. 2 of them were pretty thrilling, and one of them was pretty epic in Baltimore and so gutsy in Buffalo. And to lose the way that they have the last 3 weeks, where everyone you've had kind of a chance, maybe the Jets game, you want to say the idea that they were going to win that game. Okay, I'll tip my cap to that one, because the Jets are looking real good right now. But certainly Cincinnati and Minnesota, with all the adversity that you were facing, you were right there at the end. And for them to turn into that is crushing. And now, the reason I bring this up is now you're facing this run of the schedule where it's Pittsburgh, Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, bye week, Houston. So certainly is what everybody would dub the soft part of your schedule. But football's going to football. And now it's you need this run of 5 games. You better go 4-1 if you're going to have any real hopes for this season. You need to come out of this thing being 7-4. That needs to be the goal by the time you go out on the West Coast and you go to 3 straight road games against San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Buffalo, all on the road. You are going to want yourself a nice cushion, which is the unfortunate thing about blowing a 3-0 start to the season. And especially in a division that looks like it's going to be really competitive the rest of the way. The Patriots seem like they're heading towards a quarterback controversy, but are 500. They've battled back yet again, like they always seem to. No matter what you want to say, how much we want to make fun of them, they always seem to put the bugaboo of the bad start behind them. The Jets are rolling right now and just got a win in Green Bay. And I know it's not the Green Bay that we've all come to know, but still they went and got an impressive win against a good quarterback on the road. And then, we know how talented Buffalo is. You know how much it took to beat that team around. And so your margin for error is not very big. And so this Thursday night game against a Pittsburgh team that has not looked very good this year, and there's going to be a lot of drama around it because, Tua's not only going to have to – this is going to be a tough week because Tua's not only going to have to answer the questions about the injury, dealing with all that, the trepidations of returning to football, but also he's going to have to face his past a little bit because of all the Brian Flores stuff that's going to be asked of him and what that relationship was like and all that stuff. And look, he has shown himself to handle everything with grace and class in the media. It may not seem like it bothers him, but it's still a lot to deal with. And so I think it's a big week for Mike McDaniel too, because, he's got to find a way to get this team off to a roaring start on prime time. They're going to be, honoring 50th anniversary of the perfect team. Zonk's going to be there tweeting, dude. He's going to be there tweeting. So you might want to get yourself off to a good start because this team has not had an open and drive touchdown yet. Right now, they find themselves in a real crossroads of the season. If you want to be the Dolphin fan that's like, hey, come on, this ain't their real team, I get you. I'll hear you. That's true. That's not their real team. But if you think this is going to be a season that's going to be left without any adversity ever again, then I feel like you've not watched football. I mean, this is a team that's been having to deal with a lot. It sounds like their two tackles are going to be back next week. McDaniel was saying that Armstead and Austin Jackson were very close to playing, and they need reinforcements too because that offensive line was pretty decent to start the year, and they were getting railroaded this game. They need to get that thing solidified. They need to shore up a lot. They can't have these fourth quarter critical turnovers. They got to get some semblance of a run game going. They got to protect their quarterback better. And, man, it would be nice if one of their quarterbacks could get through a damn game. All that being said, things are pretty positive in Dolphins land. So, been the same movie the last 3 weeks. Let's hope there's not another sequel come up next Sunday night.